Welcome to the 5th episode of NIBM podcast series, NIBM Insight. I'm Dr. Elizabeth James, faculty NIBM. Today, our PGDM student Ms. Aindrila Chakraborty is going to interview my colleague Dr. Smita Roy Trivedi on her research paper titled Into the Unknown, Uncertainty, Foreboding and Financial Markets, published in April 2023 in the Journal of Asia Pacific Financial Markets. The conversation will revolve around the impact of uncertainty, fear, and anxiousness on financial markets that were seen during the COVID-19 pandemic. In her paper, Dr. Smita has calculated indices for measuring foreboding and used natural language processing and sentiment analysis tools to observe the impact of financial market volatility. She also has some research-backed inputs for everyone who is interested in understanding the financial markets. Stay tuned for an insightful interview.
Hello everyone, welcome you to another exciting episode of NIBM Insight Series podcast, and today with us we have Dr. Smita Roy Trivedi madam, who is our distinguished faculty and a finance expert. We welcome you, ma'am. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Aindrila. Thank you for inviting me for this discussion, and of course thank you for choosing this very nice setting. It showcases our beautiful campus, so thank you so much. Yes, please go ahead.
So ma'am, today our discussion will revolve around your very recent paper, which is Into the Unknown, Uncertainty, Foreboding and Financial Markets. And how did you come up with this catchy title, and how did you integrate it into a serious topic like financial markets?
Yes, of course I thought as much that you're going to ask this. Of course, the phrase "into the unknown," as I have shared in my paper as well, is from the Disney classic Frozen, the song "Into the Unknown." And I think when we hear the word unknown, so let me explain how it figures into my research. So, when we think of the word unknown, usually it connotes nervousness yet excitement. Something humans love going into the unknown. Adventures and attraction for the unknown is there. But the pandemic made me rethink the word unknown, because during the pandemic, our everyday lives were becoming an unknown. So I was thinking, what if everyday decisions and everyday matters become an unknown, and what if the entire human race is kind of hurtled towards an unknown? Then the thought processes that came to me, I can actually discern two layers to it. One, when we make when unknown turns negative, it becomes uncertain, it is going to impact the human decision making, economic decisions as well. That's one. Secondly, some events are just not uncertain. There's a more layer to it. There's anxiousness, there is worry, because think of pandemic, for example. We were so worried about so many things. It was not just that the lockdown or the fact that the vaccines are not there, that's uncertain. There's also a numbing anxiousness about the future. So when we add anxiousness to unknown, then I thought it is better captured in the word foreboding. And then I wanted to know how foreboding impacts human decisions, and especially I wanted to focus on how it impacts the financial markets. A little bit I should share over here that already the groundwork on economic policy uncertainty is done. There are a lot of papers starting from the very famous Baker-Bloom-Davis study. Economic policy indices are calculated for major economies, published on daily basis, monthly basis. So the groundwork on economic policy uncertainty is done, but I thought that there is a gap in literature, because foreboding by itself is an emotion which should be considered, because some events like pandemic, like a war, like terrorist strikes, these are very negative. So there would be a different kind of emotion associated, and we should try to measure that separately and see its impact on the markets. Yes.
So What did you exactly
Yes,
find?
yes, of course. Yeah. So what? Of course, with the foreboding index, I found yes, there's a statistically significant impact on the financial market volatility, and I could trace it over 2022 and 2021. So exact dates you can look up in the paper, and the entire period, the foreboding index, how it moved, and actually what was also as a what I also did as a robustness study was to relate it to the other policy indices,
Okay.
uncertainty indices, and I could find a correlation there. So that is also something which which is very interesting. Yes.
Okay. So, ma'am, measuring human sentiments is a very tricky thing to do. How did you exactly take sentiments into consideration? Because I think your paper involves that sentiment
Right.
analysis.
Yeah.
And then, how did you do it?
How do we measure sentiment?
Yes, how do we
Yeah.
measure sentiment?
So I mean, yes, absolutely. I mean, see, like right now we are talking, so we are excited or we are happy, and I'm sure like humans have this innate ability to gauge. So the audience, I'm sure they can make out that we are excited. But if I ask them to put a number, what is Aindrila's level of excitement, it would be difficult.
Right.
So you are absolutely correct. It's difficult to quantify sentiment, but and again, there's a huge body of literature on it. There has been attempts to try and quantify sentiment, because otherwise, unless we put a number, it becomes sometimes very difficult to interpret. See, tomorrow I put you on the trading desk. I ask you, okay, just take into account all the news and trade. You're basing your decisions just on the news. So it would be very difficult to take it, understand it, fathom it, and take the decision. But if I can give you indices, it makes a better interpretation. It's easier to interpret. Similarly, like any economic decision making, sentiments, wherever they are impacting economic decisions, if we can try and quantify it to an extent, we can. There's a huge lot of work that can follow. We can understand its impact in a better way. So there has been, as I told you, a lot of work already done, and from the earliest work, the effort is to try and develop a code or a dictionary which can link the words, the linguistic communication, and then make it or transform it into
Dictionary.
a number.
Okay.
Yeah. So for example, so if I have to think of the stock market, okay, there are lots of words which are particular to the stock market. So we say the market is bullish, bearish, and there has to be a certain way in which the dictionary interprets each of these words. So when I say linguistic communication, it can be structured text like news, it can be unstructured text, social media,
Emojis.
So with all those emojis on Twitter, you put
Sarcasms.
a tweet. So there is a lot of unstructured text that we would want to analyze. So everywhere, then the way of interpreting it should differ, and therefore the need for customized dictionaries. So some words have meaning only in that context. So financial context, some words have a different meaning. Think of a word like liability. Yeah, so I think I've discussed in class as well. And bullish, bearish, these otherwise in a normal standard dictionary it may mean something else, but contextually it means something else. So the dictionary, customized dictionary, and I have used the same kind of approach in my paper, helps us to then fine tune it and understand the emotion better. So in my case, it was a dictionary related to foreboding with positive, negative words. There was also an index I separately calculated with root words, a few root words, and then in both we have to take care of the number of words that are there in the text. So if the number of words go up, then obviously the number of words, it's not difficult. See, if the so in 1,000 words, if there are 5 words, and in 2,000 words there are again 10 words, it just means the same. So we have to take the total number of words as well. So there are different ways of looking at it, and so both my indices have tried to take care of that, so that if there is a lot of verbose, we take care of it, and we see the number of words related to foreboding in context with the total number of words. Okay? So we know that, okay, when a large number of words have been used, or if a smaller number of words have been used, what is the kind of foreboding expressed in that particular news. So what I have done is I have looked at news articles from Reuters, and I've used the intraday data frame because intraday markets are very exciting, and especially on the intraday I wanted to understand how the index changes, how it influences the markets. So yes, sentiment, it is very difficult, but we try to use customized dictionaries to understand contextually each of those structured or unstructured text, what they mean. So linguistic communication we try to understand better.
So ma'am, this gives rise to the second question, which is sentiment analysis, is it flawless or it has some setbacks?
Yes, there would be a lot of shortcomings. So when we when you and me, when we are talking, we are also we have this ability to say something and we might mean something else. Yeah. So humans have this ability, and see, linguistic communication, when we are measuring, the dictionary has capability to some extent. It cannot go beyond that. But now we are trying to develop ways to understand sarcasm, ways to interpret emojis. So we are getting better, but it's difficult. So the nuances may not always be captured. Then the other thing which strikes me is that when all of these analysis we do, they are usually limited to particular languages or a set of languages. So I have limited myself to English because the dictionary is English. But I was studying pandemic, so COVID pandemic, and if I could have a dictionary, say, in Chinese, and I could see the regional news, then might be I would have got early signals of foreboding in the news particular to that region. So we don't know, and the moment we limit to a language, that these are two major ones I can think of immediately. Yes, there are shortcomings, but this is the best we are trying to do.
Okay. So ma'am, this is your take on this. How do investors, young investors like us, take sentiments into consideration and behave well in financial markets?
Okay, so your sentiments you have to take into consideration. That is one. The second part, behave well, I'm not very sure. See, we have you are very interested in behavioral economics, and we have discussed so many times. We know we misbehave. So we should just know the limits to our our rationality. I think that is a better way to put it. But yes, we do need to take care of sentiments, because when we look at financial markets, we can have fundamental analysis, we can have technical analysis. It's also important to interpret the news, because news is just not fundamentals. There's a lot of changes happening intraday, even though the economic fundamentals don't change. And usually traders would want to, or investors would want to have some interpretation of that. So sentiment indices are very good way in which you can actually see numbers and try to understand what the market sentiment, where it is going. And we know sentiment impacts the market so much. We are seeing it every day. And the other part would be that we cannot ensure that we are rational. We know we are not. There's a departure from rationality, which now economics as a discipline has learned to accept. But knowing what thumb rules we use, or knowing what our biases is, may be helpful, because the moment we are more aware of it, we are better decision makers. So even just think of gender related biases.
Yes.
An awareness of what could be those biases helps us. So if I go back 10 or 20 years, some of these things we were not aware of. And being aware helps, I think, for young people, whether as a trader or an investor. Taking sentiments into account is important, and just knowing the limits to your rationality is also good enough. When we know our biases, we are better decision makers.
So we would wrap up the discussion here.
Yes.
If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to our social media pages. And thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us. And this was a very insightful discussion, as it is with you always on these topics.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Aindrila, and thank you, audience.